There was a now famous meeting between Winston Churchill and Joseph Stalin of the erstwhile Soviet Union during the ending stages of the Second World War, when Churchill used the imagination of an alligator to explain to Joseph Stalin why they should do an invasion of Italy, describing it as the Nazis' soft underbelly. A few months later, the same Winston Churchill would be standing and saying this: from Stettin in the Baltic to Trieste in the Adriatic, an iron curtain has descended across the continent. So, from discussing war strategy with Joseph Stalin to accusing him of creating the Iron Curtain, you would call that a tonal shift in Churchill's speeches, and you would reflect that as a substantive shift in position, geopolitics, strategy, and thought. A tonal shift and a substantive shift, which brings us to the present day and an individual who is the elected Prime Minister of Canada, who in the past 24 hours has been using the brilliant intonation, which one would be presumptuous enough to call gloating. He's been gloating. He's thrilled. He thinks he's won something, that there's an achievement. He's brought India to heel. The Americans and the FBI have come in. He's been proved right. He's got us. He's made us eat humble pie. Now that's what he thinks. But this is what happens when you live in Trudeau la la land, okay? There was no rancor between India-Canada relations, despite the fact of Trudeau's father sitting over the investigation into the Kanishka bombing. There was no crisis. Things were going swimmingly well. India and Canada had good associations. Large sets of students, people going there to work, living healthy lives. So what went wrong? A substantive incremental change and tonal suicide runs. You could not fathom that India would take great umbrage to how you talk, how you behave, and how you act. Could not digest it because the mentality remains the same. Third world country is to do what it is told to do. Anything we do for you will be a favor which you will pay us in kind. Now, a little bit of gentle diplomatic comeuppance has come in the past few hours from the Ministry of External Affairs, who have reminded Justin Trudeau that the core issues remain unaddressed. There are terrorists roaming the streets of Canada who bombed a plane in the worst ever terror attack until 9/11, whom the Canadians, first under his father, then subsequently 30 years later, failed to convict and prosecute, to the astonishment of their own analysts and investigators. There are people putting posters of Indian diplomats celebrating the assassination of India's prime ministers, and they are all hosted by and aided and abetted by Justin Trudeau, and whom he thinks of as a friend, Jagmeet, who is his now most vocal critic. Now, Justin Trudeau thinks he's won some victory. Now, I started with a World War II reference, and I'm going to come back to another reference. There was an individual by the name of Chamberlain, and he went and had a very famous meeting in Munich. And he came back and waved a paper proclaiming peace in our times, peace in Europe. He was far distended from where reality was, and I think Justin Trudeau is living in a distended reality of his own. Ambassador Veena Sikri is with us, General Dup Katoch, stay on with us, Gautam Mukherjee joins us, and Professor Madhav Nalapat is still with us. Now, Professor Nalapat, we have really no interest, no inkling, no urgency, no want to have a toxic association with Canada. Why would anybody want that? The premise is simple. There are people operating in Canada under the full view, perhaps even the purview of the Canadian state, who are vowing terrorist activities against Indians and the Indian soil. What has Justin Trudeau done in the past few weeks to address these concerns?
Well, I'd like to point out that you're quite right. I've been to Canada. It's a wonderful country, beautiful, wonderful people, if I may say so. But, his father, Pierre Trudeau, was known for basically holding meetings completely naked. He didn't have a stitch of clothing on, and he used to hold meetings. Now, the good news about his son, Justin, is that the man is naked about his motives. He is desperate to get the attention of the Canadians away from the real threat to Canada, which is the connection of the Trudeaus to the CCP, and shift it in an entirely different direction against the world's most populous democracy, India. That is what he has been jumping up and down doing. Now, frankly, I don't know if he's gloating or if he's sniffing or God knows what on earth Justin Trudeau does. But the fact of the matter is there's nothing to gloat about. The reality is that, Rishabh, geopolitical strategic alliances, as you correctly said in the matter of Winston Churchill, being a friend of Joseph Stalin and basically joining hands with Stalin and talking about the crocodile strategy. You turn the crocodile on his back and cut it open in his stomach rather than at the hard, top of the crocodile. Well, the fact of the matter is that hard strategic necessity has put India and the United States and the West in general into an arranged marriage. And in an arranged marriage, circumstances create the marriage, and finally the bride and groom learn to love and live with each other. So Justin Trudeau can huff and puff. His Chinese friends, I'm not going to call them masters, friends can look in with surprise and dismay. But the reality is Indo-American relations are undamaged, and whether the FBI man comes here, he's very welcome. I hope he's gone to Jaisalmer, Jaipur, and some places in the south, beautiful places. But the basic relationship is based on fundamental national interest, and nothing is going to shake that. Certainly not somebody like Justin Trudeau, who frankly, it's very unfortunate for the Canadian people that the man is in power. I'd like to point out that you're perfectly right. Canada is falling apart. If you look at the coming Sunday Guardian in about 48 hours' time, you'll see a detailed account of why law and order in Canada has completely broken down. It's become a haven for drug lords. It's a haven for gangs, for the tongs of China, and for the gangsters in South America, etc. So much so that actually the southern border, it's not the southern border, it's the northern border of the US that is becoming the real security threat. Canada is disintegrating under Trudeau's rule, and the only silver lining is I am certain that the good people of Canada are going to get this gentleman out. But believe me, Rishabh, he can't harm relations between India and the West by 1 millimeter. They are based on fundamental interest, and they're not based on self-interest, and basically, based on his necessity of doing what the Chinese want him to do, which is try and make India the villain. And he's not the only one. There are newspapers, there are commentators all over the world who say, oh, forget China. The
Okay.
real threat to global security is India.
Okay, Ambassador Veena Sikri, as tempted as I have been in the recent past to organize a rally outside the Canadian High Commission supporting freedom for Quebec, we haven't done that. We are not here celebrating the assassination of John F. Kennedy or Abraham Lincoln and wishing that more such heads of other governments in other countries are assassinated. So the point of provocation is very simple. There are people who are operating, who are publicly, vocally and otherwise acting to the detriment of the sovereignty of India. They are potentially being feted, aided or even abetted by the Canadian state. Have we seen action by the Canadian state to address our concerns?
Absolutely none. That is the primary issue between India and Canada at the moment, that despite all the facts and figures given by India to Canada, despite the Interpol and other agencies accepting the details that are provided by India and also forwarding these to the Canadian government, despite this, the Canadian government has taken no action at all. And this is not a new matter. It's been going on for months and years, and they have not at all taken any action against what India has said. And in response to what Prime Minister Trudeau said in Parliament about the killing of Niger, India has quite rightly, within its own rights, taken very strong action. We have absolutely and unequivocally conveyed to the Canadians that we will not allow these kind of allegations to be made. And the so-called credible allegations, no specific information has been provided by Canada to India. In fact, the people of Canada are asking the Prime Minister, where is the information? We want to see it. And India has said at the level of Foreign Minister, External Affairs Minister, that we are prepared to look at any specific allegations, any specific points, any specific information.
But ma'am, you've read what he has said. He has just accused us, this is the Prime Minister, head of government of Canada, representing the people of Canada. He has accused us of trying to bluster our way through it. His words, not mine. What do you make of that?
Absolutely. But what he is trying to say, I think he is actually feeling peeved because he thinks that India's reaction to what the USA has said is different. But he doesn't understand. And we have said this clearly, that with America, they have given us specific information. And in keeping with the friendship, the understanding, the strategic partnership between India and USA, we are looking at it. In fact, there is an understanding, as far as I know, that India has set up its own high-level inquiry committee, and everybody will wait for the outcome, the results of that inquiry committee, the information they come up with, the decisions they convey. India has been given consular access to Nikhil Gupta, who is right now in the Czech Republic, and India is doing everything which is a formal, mature democracy like India should do and would do if a government gives you specific information.
Okay.
The point I'm trying to say is that Canada has not done this. They're being childish. They're being very peevish.
Okay.
They're trying to raise it in Parliament.
Okay.
And
So how confused is he? Because General Katoch, let us assume, and let me call a spade, let us assume that the Americans under duress, okay, have given Justin Trudeau a fig leaf. Okay, we'll take it up and we'll take up a case with the Indians. And they'll promise to act, and a fig leaf is given, a face saver has been given for you to now walk back. So let us assume that has happened. Now this person then immediately shows up and says, oh, you were trying to bluster your way through it. Basically he's accusing you of bluffing, okay, of lying and bluffing. That's what blustering means, okay, and then takes no action on what he should be taking action against. So what problem has Justin Trudeau just solved?
Justin Trudeau is playing a very dirty hand. He needs to be much more careful, especially of the words which he uses. But I'm very pleased with the Indian response. You see, the Indian Prime Minister hasn't spoken about what is happening in Canada. In fact, as far as India's Prime Minister is concerned, Justin Trudeau has been ignored. Even the External Affairs Minister has ignored him. It is left to the spokesperson of the MEA to sort of start giving rebuttals about Canada, which the Canadian Prime Minister has taken on himself to defend. So it is really the spokesperson of the MEA on one side and Justin Trudeau on the other. That's the comparison which I'm getting. I think Trudeau has to be very careful about Sikh separatism, because this very same separatism can bite him. Rishabh, the world was very soft on Islamic terror. And when India was facing it, nobody was really worried till 26/11 happened. And when America got bombed by these same people, that is the time the West woke up. The same thing is going to happen here.
But General Katoj, is, you say it's going to happen, but it's already happened. It happened before 9/11. It happened when Canadians died. They didn't wake up then, and that was Daddy Trudeau. And son Trudeau is on, I don't know whether to call it hubris, but he's on a trip something. I have no evidence of what he's smoking, but he seems to be on a trip. Now he's saying that India was trying to bluster through something. There's no bluster going on. Only the bluster that is going on is in Surrey, is in Vancouver. What is happening there?
I think the Indian Prime Minister has made it very clear to them that India supports the rule of law. If Canada can give us the evidence even now, I'm certain that we will investigate whatever they have to offer, the same offer which we are given to the United States. But they have no evidence. And if they have no evidence, then the second statement which the Prime Minister made was that we are concerned about acts of terrorism and terrorist groups taking shelter in the name of freedom of speech in certain countries, making a direct reference to Canada. Now, I think Justin Trudeau should be looking into that.
Okay.
Why are these separatist groups being allowed such a free hand? Because
so on freedom of speech and expression, we know what he did with the truckers' protest. Okay, so let's just put that aside. Gautam Mukherjee, these arguments of freedom of speech and protest, I'm going to put that aside. I'm talking about cold, hard reality that people who committed acts of terror, they literally put a bomb on a plane and blew it up. There's not freedom of speech or expression involved here. That's a bomb on a plane and blew it up, and they walked free in Canada. They are still walking free and assuming that they are continuing to be up to no good. What action is Justin Trudeau taking, and on what basis is he suggesting bluster on our part? The bluster is clearly on his part.
Well, I think part of it is, a sort of nod towards China, with whom he seems to enjoy good relationship. And part of it is to do with, being politically so beholden to the Khalistanis that he is unable to see it any other way. They have got him brainwashed, and this is the way he looks at things. I think India will just have to tolerate this till 2025, when there is to be an election, and hopefully Trudeau will be, thrown out of office.
Whether he gets thrown out of office, doesn't get thrown out of office, let the Canadian voter decide that. My premise is that as a responsible, I'm assuming an educated head of government, he is standing out there and is accusing the world's greatest democracy, first of bloody murder, then of blustering their way through things, okay? While he is sitting on board, not freedom of speech, terrorists who put bomb on a plane and killed Canadians. Now, what is the action he's taking, and what is the accountability to be demanded of him as he is sitting and demanding accountability of India on a daily basis?
Well, I think India is telling him where he gets off, and he doesn't like it. And there's nothing he can do about it on the one hand. So he's trying to lean on the idea that America has put us in our place. But as Ambassador Sikri pointed out, that's a very different thing. They have provided some evidence, and they're looking into it. Here, he has accused us first on the assumption that we will start backing down and groveling as he expects a third world country to do. Well, the point is we're neither third world nor in any such situation where we need to grovel to Canada.
All right. So now you hit the nail on the head. Ambassador Veena Sikri, what Justin Trudeau was expecting was exactly that he would come and hold a private conversation, and we would grovel. When we refuse to grovel, then he's got really upset. And this is about ego. This is about himself. It's got nothing to do with India-Canada relations, because he knows that he has a lot to answer for given what's happening in his own country.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. He really thought that he would say one word, go to the press, go to his parliament, and that's it. India would, sort of lie flat and say, okay, fine, we are very sorry, etc. But there's nothing to say sorry about, because there's no evidence at all. So absolutely, India took the correct way. We expelled 41 of their diplomats, absolutely unprecedented. But it indicates the extent to which India was so angry that any country, Canada or any other country, could accuse India in this manner in their own parliament without providing any evidence, without there being any evidence of any kind. Credible allegations. Whoever heard of such a phrase? There's no such phrase. There's credible evidence. There's no such thing as credible allegations. And I think what's really biting him, that is that his own people today don't respect him anymore. We know that his popularity is falling rapidly because they are asking for the same evidence that the Indian government is asking for. They're saying, okay, so where is the evidence?
Okay.
Why did you say this about India? So I think this fact that his bluff has been called, it's not anybody else's, his own bluff.
So that's exactly my point, because Professor Nalapat, there is more than enough publicly available, published, and if the Canadians don't have a copy, I have a copy of the FIRs and charge sheets against people residing on Canadian soil. Where is the action on that?
Well, in a single word, nothing. And the reason, Rishabh, is money. Money, which is needed, very clearly needed by politicians in Canada. I have been briefed by friends in Canada who tell me that the narcotics smugglers and the gangs, including gangs from China, they are running riot in Canada, and they're generating large amounts of cash. Now you can, send that money to Luxembourg, you can send that money to various other locations, and there are known techniques of whitewashing that money so that it comes back in a sparklingly fresh way. And the question is, how many of these of the politicians who are basically looking the other way when Canada is descending into this hell of drugs and terror and violence, how many of them are basically taking money directly or indirectly from these interests? I have a feeling that Justin Trudeau, if a government comes in future that investigates the funding and financing of several of those connected, whether in terms of friendly relations or more formally with this government, I think they may find out that some of that money, if you track and trace it, is very dodgy money. Unfortunately, Rishabh, in this case, money is not talking. Money is making him keep silent. Keep silent to the fact that a wonderful country is becoming a haven for drug smugglers, is becoming a den of violence.
Okay. General Katroz, there was a very famous comment made by Hillary Clinton in reference to Pakistan. You'll remember it. It was called snakes in your backyard. So when a person who has done the trial run from a bombing goes and plants not one but bombs on 2 aircraft, both of them blow up, one blows up in Tokyo, one blows up near Ireland, hundreds of people die, and you set them free, what have you just done? What have you perpetuated upon your own people?
I think what Justin Trudeau has done, and his father prior to him, they have given support to terrorist activities. And once you support terror activities, they will come down as we stated, the snakes in your backyard. They will come and bite you. That is Hillary Clinton's statement. So as far as Justin Trudeau is concerned, I am quite certain that the support which he is giving to terrorists based within Canada who are Canadian citizens, one day they are going to bite him. And I think that, as Professor Nalapat says, that day is not far off. And the people of Canada will actually have to realize it.
Okay.
And if they don't, well, they will suffer. That is part of the system.
Okay. So what is it going to take, Gautam Mukherjee, for just a common sensical realization that if you are hosting, potentially aiding, abetting, certainly shielding and supporting those people who make it clear that they are in virulent support of political assassinations of heads of government who are taking out flotillas, public rallies, supporting the assassinations of prime ministers in other democratic countries, at what point of time do you think, hang on, before I support these people, I should remember I am a prime minister and maybe I should increase my own security, because who knows, this is the kind of compendium I am gathering with me?
Well, I can't see Trudeau changing his ways. This is a very obvious thing to realize, which he has decided in a very obtuse fashion not to realize. He continues to support and harbor all these people. As Professor Nalapat said, this has a lot to do with his payola and the fact that the Chinese and the Pakistani intelligence outfits, plus the Khalistanis, are all involved, is part of his support base. And that's all there is to it.
Okay.
So he's going to keep needling India, because that is also expected by them for him to do. And, as long as he stays in power, he's not going to understand. He is going to behave in this obnoxious manner. But this isn't the people of Canada. This is this individual politician who happens to head the government for the time being.
Okay. Well, all I can say is Vive le Quebec Libre.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.